Hi guys, my name's Kevin Moore and I'm the host of The Moore Show. Now it's my purpose, my passion, my mission to help you guys become your greatest version. Now you might be looking to find answers on love, connecting with your life's purpose, reuniting with a loved one on the other side, discovering your past lives, or just helping you make sense in finding your direction. Now, as a multi-dimensional channel, I can connect with higher aspects of yourself to help you in this present moment to become your best version and live your most empowered life. Now, you can book myself for a reading by going to tmspsychics.com/Kevin, or you can get a reading from one of my many gifted team of readers. The Moore Show Psychics, helping you transform your present moment to the most loving and happiest it can be. Now, I also offer a full money back guarantee, so what have you got to lose? Empower your life today. From the UK and across the world online. You're now watching The Moore Show and I'm your host Kevin Moore. Now for the next hour I'll be covering subjects that will open up your mind and provide you with information you may have never heard before. Now on today's show I'm about to be joined with my guest Dr. Jeffrey Fidel. Now Jeffrey was diagnosed with bipolar 1 disorder, which can be a lifelong sentence unless you take and stay on prescription medication. You cannot function as a normal sane member of society. But Dr. Jeffrey Fidel is proof that this is not true. Through many ups and downs and searching, he came to the Tao Te Ching. Now it spoke to him and awoken his awareness that there was another voice, a quiet one that spoke truth to him, a voice that connected him to all that is. Now through a year of deep solitude, he became convinced that following the voice was the real path to a life of mental and emotional freedom. Now he tapered off his meds, quit his medical practice, and focused on living the life directed by that inner voice. Now today Dr. Fidel lives a contented, complete, humble and drug-free life in Florida, living in the present moment. Dr. Jeffrey Fidel, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Kevin.
It's a pleasure to have you on. As people can see right now, I'm doing this interview on the road, and it's great that I've got the technology to be able to do this. And I'm just in the UK right now visiting family, and today I just got the sad news just a couple of hours ago as a Star Wars fan that Carrie Fisher passed away. But this fits in very perfectly in one sense with this interview, because little did I know that she actually suffered from a bipolar as well. Actually, just before we get into the deeper meanings of any of this subject, let's just hear a little bit of your backstory. Then that will, allow me then to sort of, delve deeper into this subject. So just tell us about your story and how long you suffered from bipolar, what the side effects were, and just when you knew really it was getting to a point where you had to do something about it.
Yeah. So my story briefly is since I'm 45 right now. So when I got to the age of 20 in college, I first was diagnosed with depression. And at that point, I was placed on medication for depression. And then 8 years after that, at 28, I got to the point where my state of mind, I could not even function anymore in society. So then I went back to a psychiatrist, and that's when I received my diagnosis of bipolar type 1. And so for 25 years, I was labeled mentally ill, and I was on psychiatric medications. Then about a year and a half, almost 2 years ago, when I lost my marriage and then my dog died, and then I walked away from my job and I threw my medications away, all in a very short period of time. That's when I took this inward journey, and I've never taken a medication since. But This inner journey is something that I did in near complete isolation, and I never went back to a psychiatrist. And the book that I've written kind of describes all the states of mind that I endured to now know myself outside of my thinking mind. And so my thoughts no longer cause me suffering. So a person that's bipolar, it's their thinking mind that's causing all their suffering. It's the same for depression or any other labeled psychiatric state. In the end, it's the thoughts within the mind that are causing the suffering of the patient, or the person, I should say.
So with these thoughts then, what kind of thoughts were that self-destructive that I suppose, they, even suicide, felt like a way out to stop that kind of noise in the head. What sort of thoughts were they? Were they self-worth kind of thoughts?
Yes, they're self-worth kind of thoughts. Like, I feel worthless, I feel depressed, I want to go to bed, I can't get out of bed. And then eventually they did get to the point, you don't deserve to live anymore, or I need to take my life. And when it did get to a point where it was almost the whole outside world disappeared from me, because my mind was so consumed with thoughts um, of just having to end my life immediately. The thoughts were it became my entire world. It's almost like a veil was put over my eyes, and my mind was consumed with thoughts of suicide. Um, and this is why I could see why people would take their lives, because when the mind creates these a storm of thought, so to say, the outside world no longer exists, and the easy thing to do is either end your life or overdose or do anything to take away the storm of thoughts that creates intense suffering. So the only way I was able to get out of that was I was fortunate to have found the teachings of the Tao, the Jing, and connect to another voice within myself, which the book kind of enabled me to do, and now I'm able to tell this story.
Yeah. So these are thoughts of I'm never going to be lucky enough to have this, or I'll never meet this type of person, or my life's never going to get any better than it is now. This is the pinnacle. I'm not enjoying my life. I can't. I've got no way out, nowhere to change it. It's not the life I wanted. Are these any of the thoughts? I mean, I'm digging deep here.
No, those are exactly the types of thought. But you see, at the time those were happening, I identified with those thoughts. So all those thoughts that were coming through my mind, I took those thoughts seriously.
Okay.
And the rest of my being outside of my mind became whatever it said. So in other words, if I had a thought, I can't get out of bed all day,
Yeah.
then my whole body responded to that thought, and lo and behold, I stayed in bed all day because I identified with that thought.
Okay. But where did the depression start, do you think? What was the trigger for the depression? Did you ever get down to that?
Sure. So the depression that started at age 20, that's when I left for college, and pretty much I was on my own. That was the stressor that kicked off the depression.
Right, isolation.
And those thoughts are, it turns out that much of that is repressed anger. Now this dates back to all through my childhood and what have you. But instead of directing anger outward towards the world, what I was subconsciously doing was directing it all into myself.
Right.
And so, this is a lot why people take their lives, is because they're directing unresolved conflicts into themselves. And that's why people commit suicide. Now, there's the other type of person that directs their internal suffering outside of themselves, and that's why they murder people. That's why war is happening. So there's really two ways of dealing with unresolved inner conflict. One is to take it out on the self, and the other is to take it out outside of the self. And both are, of course, unconscious activities that serve no good purpose, so to say.
So even just talking to a shrink would not have been enough to help you out of that space, to help you out of that dark hole, in a sense, would it? Because that's what some people would consider, wouldn't they, to begin with, to go and see a psychiatrist or something, and, to have some counseling sessions, I suppose, and to see, if that could help. But I suppose, can it? And then I suppose also, would a person in a state that you'll describe and even be able to go to that space?
Well, once you get into that state, if I had ever seen a psychiatrist, I would have spoken out loud. That's what I do with a psychiatrist, or what anyone does. They speak out loud their thoughts. So if I had told him what I was thinking, I would have been institutionalized and locked up, because what my mind was showing me at the time, I believed it to be true, because I had visual and auditory hallucinations in my mind. And if I told the psychiatrist that, he would have immediately looked in his book and he would have labeled me either schizophrenic or bipolar with auditory and visual hallucinations, medicated me, and then hospitalized me. However, I never would have gotten to the core etiology of where the suffering was coming from, and that's way below the surface of even the mind. So I would have been, scientifically, because pretty much psychiatry, I call it the intellectualization of human suffering, because even the psychiatrists are using science to categorize suffering, because it can't be broken into a science. It's not about serotonin and dopamine levels. That's too simplistic. It goes way below the surface of the mind. And this is why I was very fortunate I never went back to a psychiatrist. Otherwise, I'd just be having a conversation with a psychiatrist and be remedicated for the rest of my life.
Right. No, absolutely. In your journey of depression and bipolar, was there a family that you had at that time at all? Was there a partner? Was there anyone in your life, or?
Well, no one was in support of what I was doing, and so then I had to isolate myself. When I took myself off the meds, of course, my behavior became very out of the norm for society, because I went into these states of mind that are not accepted by society.
The More Show connects personal development, metaphysics, and consciousness tools for transformation, empowerment, and awakening. Please support this independent show so Kevin can continue to bring you the most inspiring and alternative interviews and videos. Go to www.themoreshow.com/donate. You can also support The More Show through Patreon by going to www.patreon.com/themoreshow. Or you can make a quick and easy donation from PayPal using paypal@themoreshow.com.
In 2008, a feature-length spiritual documentary called Tuning In was released. It was then the first time 6 of America's prominent channelers came together on film so viewers could gain insight into the channeling phenomenon. Now, Kevin Moore and his team are going to produce the sequel, Tuning In Now, to help waken people to become their greatest version. We are currently looking to raise $50,000 to make the best channeling documentary possible. And if you feel drawn to contribute, just go to www.tuninginnow.com.
I guess what my point is as well is that you could have bumped into someone and the depression could have been subdued a little bit, family could have taken place, and then bam, the depression's hitting you even harder, or the bipolar is, and things are even worse, because then you're not appreciating anyone that's around you, especially your family, and nothing is going to help you in that sense except for yourself.
Well, that's the problem, is that my family would have been scared to hear what I had to say, and they would have immediately taken me back to the doctor, and I would have fell back in the system again.
Well, what do you
So
think?
I knew that,
yeah.
that no one could have supported me at that point. That's why I isolated myself. Now, there's many times that I got too scared of what my mind was showing me, and then I wanted to go. I almost ran back to my family, and I almost ran back to the doctor. But I endured months and months and months of this mental suffering, eventually finding a way out, and now knowing myself outside of my thinking mind. So when I say I don't mean I at all, actually. The identity, the self that I once knew myself as is a conceptual self. Now I know myself as the non-self, and that self knows itself to just be woven into existence.
Yeah. Well, we're trying to name the. Yeah, you're trying to put labels on the unnameless here, and that's just so difficult to do. And I understand where you're coming from, and I want to get into a conversation about consciousness with you not too long as well. Well, not too. Yeah. Well, look. Yeah, I just want to get into. Okay, with depression, would those with depression ever admit to having voices in their head, in a sense? And when we're talking about voices in our head, let's just what are you talking about? Are you talking about the voices where you want to kill yourself, or voices where you want to do harm to others? What are we talking about voices here? And what I should have asked you at the beginning as well, because I don't know the difference. What is the difference between bipolar and depression?
Okay, so the difference between bipolar and depression is the following. Anyone that's depressed, myself included at the time, they're just hearing thoughts in their head that say, I am depressed, I can't move, I don't want to go on anymore. Now, when one hears those thoughts all day, then the rest of their being, like when you look at a person, you can't see their thoughts. That's why we can't know before someone takes their life. If you even look at Robin Williams, before he took his own life, there's a picture of him an hour before, and people were just talking to him. But they don't know in his mind that he might have been contemplating ending his life. There's no way to know that. So when one is depressed, they're hearing thoughts in their mind that says, for me it was, I don't want to live anymore, what have you. Now, for bipolar, and I could only know this now, and this is what bipolar is, I was able to stop the thoughts in my mind. So in other words, let's say I have thoughts in my mind that are, I don't want to live, I feel depressed, I want to kill myself. So those thoughts are going on all day in a depressed person's mind. And then there is a way to shut off the thinking mind completely. So then there's no more thoughts in the mind whatsoever. The mind becomes like a blank slate, so to say. Not a thought in the mind. Now, when there's no words anymore that the mind's listening to, and then the senses go up extraordinarily, because with no more words being heard in the mind, then the taste, the smell, all these senses then become very heightened. And this is the state of mania. To an outside observer, someone that's looking at someone in a state where their mind is kind of shut off and hypersensory, they'll go to a doctor and they'll say, Doc, I feel great. Everything is so wonderful. This is the way it works. But the problem is that once the mind's words come back in again, then they go, I feel like I don't want to live anymore. I'm depressed. So now there's only two states of mind, either the thoughts of suicide state of mind or the no thought heightened sensory state of mind. And that's bipolarism in a nutshell. The person now has only two states of mind that's available to them. And that's it.
Okay. You know, I mean, I've had bouts of depression now and then, but the way I've always been able to get over it, in a sense, is to realize that I am in control of my life. Actually, there is something called the law of attraction, and it's just something that is words for this undescribable nature of the nature of reality, that it's malleable and that we can have the life that we want. Thoughts are creative. So if we're going to think that we're no good, if we're going to think that we're worthless, if we're going to think that we can't have the life we want or meet the partner we want, then life just says, yes, 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 that's exactly what I'm going to give you. But if you change your thoughts, that your thoughts are that powerful that you can have everything that you desire, or in different ways that come to you in better ways that you can even imagine, and you can have a fantastic life. But I think for me, when I was depressed, I forgot about, or I didn't realize that life was that magical and that it provides for us. Now, could you even go down that road, that what I'm saying is there's any truth in that?
There is some truth in the sense that thoughts can have a reaction on a person. But the identification with I am this and I am that is where people, like, we're not our thoughts, rather we're beings that think. In other words, somewhere probably a couple thousand years ago, identity got mixed up into the mind. And then I am kind of became, when people think to themselves and they say, I am hungry, they think that that's who they are. And then to be happy, they're now kind of creating new thoughts of happiness. And then that's, what most people are doing nowadays is just changing their thinking pattern, but not really connecting to the being of who they are, which is outside of the thinking mind.
So when you talk about the being that you are, in my understanding, you're talking about consciousness, because in my truth, we are, as I look out through my eyes, yes, of course, my brain's processing everything, of course it is, into something that's ununderstandable by me. But my truth is that when I look at my eyes, it's my consciousness that's I'm looking with, that I've come into this body with consciousness and I shall leave as consciousness. Consciousness is who I truly am. So when you talk about the I am, could you even go down the same road as what I'm trying to describe to you? That I've always been, I always will be, I am consciousness, and that's just a word that's using human language to describe something that's undescribable?
Well, the body is the great deceiver, and this is where I ran into trouble. Our physical body makes us appear, I call it the particle self. We're not really in our body, so to say, because our perception as humans is very limited. We can't see much of the electromagnetic spectrum. So the separation between the body and the outside environment is actually an illusion. Now, this could be proven scientifically, because if we image any human being in a low radio frequency wave, they'll actually extend throughout the entire universe. Even as we speak right now, I mean, we're on a rock that's flying around a star that's, we're going at such a fast speed right now, and this is the illusion of form. So I always knew myself as my physical body that I identified with. But that's the deceiver. We're the universe itself, but even our minds were created from the universe itself, so that when the mind thinks about what the universe is, it's no longer that. It's a thought of what that is. And so this is the illusion of all form. Because if we point our Hubble telescope back at Earth, we're We're there with everything else. So when people are looking at the sky, the universe is observing itself through the eyes of itself, because everything that makes up our eyes was created in the existence.
Well, yeah, okay, but what is that experience? That's having experience. Okay, when you pass on, then are you going to continue somewhere else? Do you feel?
Well, we're just aware right now. That's what we are. We're aware. Like when we go to sleep, we lose our awareness or our consciousness, right? Like, kind of like we don't know where we went, right? Or if we go under anesthesia in the OR. I don't know if you've ever been put under.
I have, and I've always felt
Okay.
it. Well, is that blackness the blackness of nothingness?
Okay, or you get knocked out unconscious. It's all the same. So,
But was there any awareness in that blackness?
but I'm saying when we wake up again, our mind forms the field of awareness once again. So what we are as people is we're the field of awareness.
But
And that's what we are.
but was
Then we
there
go to
any
sleep.
but was there any
Oh.
awareness in the sleep? Was there any awareness when you're put under in the OR? I mean, we say we don't remember anything, but I remember blackness. So was I just aware of the blackness? I don't know.
But if you never woke up again, you might not know that, right?
Right.
But the bottom line is this. Take Carrie Fisher, for example. Her mind is no longer aware, but her existence goes on because we could still see her physical body. So she never left anywhere. However, her awareness is no longer, because she's no longer aware that she's here, but her body, her physical existence goes on. And it will go on in whatever form. She'll be taken to a cemetery and buried, and then she'll go back into the environment. It's hard to know. Who can know what's going on?
But what if that was? What if that? Okay, so that's your truth, and there's nothing wrong with
Right.
that truth, right? Absolutely not. But what if consciousness is not contained within the body, and this awareness that we have right now is somewhere else, and actually we go back home to a place where we came to before we were incarnated here on Earth? That's my point. When you talk about, my camera's run out of recording. Bummer. Okay, we'll just have to do this video. So when you talk about no, actually, no, I disagree with you. I'm going to say that actually. That's your truth. I'm saying to you, what if consciousness continues in ways we don't? So when you say you found the I am, when you say that you found this present moment within inside yourself, maybe you've just found your soul.
I'm saying that I don't know the answer. I don't know who I am, nor can I. I'm not claiming that I know anything. It's unknowable. And that's what my book is about. Non-dualism means that all states are unknowable. So I don't know who I am. I never can know who I am. All I know is that I'm aware. And when I say I don't mean I either. I'm just the field of awareness itself. As I'm woven into the existence, which is intrinsically unknowable, because even my mind that is going to come up with a thought is of the existence. And a thought of the existence is no longer the existence.
Therefore, okay, so you don't believe that your consciousness within a body. I just want to get down to this. You don't believe your consciousness within a body. You don't believe that when you die, that actually, it's just a crossing over back to the place where you came from before, yeah, and that you're just as aware and conscious as this. You don't believe in that. Your not belief or truth. Your truth is that I don't really understand the truth. I suppose I think what you're saying is that your truth is you're just the awareness of your awareness, and I probably even got that wrong because I probably don't understand quite what you're saying.
The truth is, I've come to the conclusion that I can't know, but I cannot know. I cannot know. I've accepted that. Because the non-dual state can never be known. And the first sentence of the Tao, which taught me much of this, is the Tao that can be named is not the eternal Tao. Meaning the naming of something, even if I come up with a belief, that's, like you said, that would be my personal belief. And beliefs to me are only beliefs. They're not absolute truth. So what I know is I know nothing, but I know that I'm aware. I'm able to have this conversation with you. I'm a field of awareness, and that's all I could know. I keep saying but it's just an awareness is all it is.
But you could, but would you be surprised if it continued on when you passed, and that actually there was you were your all your memory, everything else, you as you now continued on to something else, and you were just as conscious and aware, or more aware than you are now? Would that bother you?
Well, that's an unknowable state. That's a belief system. All I can know is the present moment of now, where I am of the existence. Right now is the moment, and that's all I know, and I am of that. So if I'm gonna, contemplate in my mind these ideas of is there life after death or all these things, those would just be my.
Not religious. We're not talking about religious talk here. This is
okay.
This is not religious at all. This is spirituality. Yeah.
I'm just the only thing I know is presence, that life takes place now, and if I'm gonna start thinking about other things in my mind, those are just like mind constructs. But to answer your question, it's just as simple as nothingness. There's no words to describe any of this except that there's an awareness, and I'm a part of it, as is every other human being, and we're woven into the existence.
But what is that awareness? That's what I'm saying. You're saying it's unnameless, right? Which is fine, right? And I've said to you at the beginning of this interview, really, even using the word consciousness, that I'm saying for myself that I feel that I'm consciousness within this body. That's just a word for something that's undescribable. The soul is just a word for something that's undescribable. But I'm saying, but my point is that I feel that this, what you're talking about, this I-ness, this whatever, I can't always remember the words you're saying actually for some reason, but this present moment that you're experiencing right now is not just through the eyes of the mind, but through the eyes of something greater than that.
That's correct. My whole concept, I have basically there's two selves. One is the mind self, which I always knew myself as up to 2 years ago, and that's who I thought I was. That's a conceptual self that knows myself to be in a body. Jeffrey Fidel with all these, that's my conceptual self. That's the egoic self. It's a thought-based identity. So that self, of course, I use that self every day, like to pay my taxes, and exist in the world, so to say. But then the other self I'm talking of is the existential self, or the non-dual self, and that self is actually a no self. There's no word for it actually.
But you say that not what the words you just said there, or whatever as you describe it, you're describing something that then is destroyed when the body is over. So basically, all the life that you went through now was just for this very moment right now. There's nothing else afterwards. There's no continuation. I'm not talking about going to heaven, because I don't believe in that word. I call it going back home. There is nothing. Well, basically what you're saying, there's nothing more than what we have right now, and when it's over, it's over.
No, yeah. So right now is now, but now it's now again. So now is when it happens. So when I'm speaking right now, you see, each moment of now is so very transient. So when I say I'm living, I'm able to let go of everything and bring my attention to the moment of now, where existence occurs. And so, if I think about something that happened to me yesterday, that's only in my mind. Or if I think about what's going to happen tomorrow, that's in my mind. But right now, as we speak, this the practice
absolutely. I'm very much into that. That yesterday is depression, tomorrow is worry, or whatever way around that goes.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Yesterday is regret, and tomorrow is
Yeah, that's
worry.
it.
Correct.
That's it. Right. I'm cool. That's a great way to live. Right now is all that matters. But for me, just for me, and I don't know how many others out there, I just, if I didn't feel that I could change my life using realizing how powerful thoughts are, and that through the thought it creates your reality. You right now, watching this or listening to it, you are creating your reality in the very present moment. So be careful of the thoughts that you have. But that understanding, whether you are into that understanding or not, that understanding is very powerful, because when you think about it, if thoughts are that creative, which they are to me, then my God, where does that power come from?
Well, they're not our thoughts. That's the thing. They are thoughts, but they're not our thoughts.
Well,
Thoughts come and go. And the more we identify with thoughts.
Then I'm saying to you, yeah, I know what you're saying, but thoughts come and go. But if we don't have the right thoughts, or if we don't believe that we can think something into reality, just imagine all the things that have been thought into reality. They were thoughts, and then at some point they became a reality. To the camera I'm using right now to be recorded on, to the Skype system that we're using to connect this video, to everything that we do.
There's no denying that thoughts are a useful tool. They're very useful. But the problem arose, and I think I touched upon it before, is that our identity has nothing to do with thoughts. Thoughts are an extremely useful tool, but I used to all my
But then how do we get out of a situation? You know what I'm saying to you is, through my thoughts, I've thought my way out of negativity. I've thought my way out of depression, and I've could continue after this conversation to think my reality. What kind of reality do I want to create? Well, I don't always know that, but I know if I really put my mind to it, I could create a reality that I really wanted to. I'd have to roll my sleeves up and use my legs and move things forward. It ain't going to come to me. But the thought is where it starts, and that's a powerful place. That's all I'm saying. If I didn't have that, I would never have got out of depression, but I guess it was different for yourself.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. But the only escape for me was to know myself outside of thought, because, as I mentioned before.
But how did you get anything done outside of thought?
But this is connecting to a voice that comes from our heart. That this was taught to me by the teachings of the Tao, but I had to go to the very darkest place to connect with this part of myself.
Now what you're
this is why I don't recommend that people attempt really what I've done. But the only cure for bipolar is what I've done, because a bipolar person, a depressed person, unless they're able to do what you're doing, which is changing your thoughts and then allowing that to bring you out
a new reality.
Right. To create a different reality in your mind, you're able to do that. Now, for me, I got to the point where I could no longer, there was no more option. In fact, if I went back to a psychiatrist, then they would have remedicated me. But now I know myself outside of thought. But the only way to know ourselves outside of thought is to enter a complete state of no mind, which I did, and it's really beyond the scope of the interview, I guess, to explain how it is. But in the end, if a person's depressed, if they're bipolar, if they're schizophrenic, it's their mind that is creating their suffering. It's their thinking mind. So if they go to a doctor and they put them on medications, those medications are modifying the thinking mind, but they're not going to the being outside of thought. So all psychiatry is focused just on the mind and thought, and that's kind of the limitations of psychiatry today. Western psychiatry
but
is all focused on that.
yes, absolutely it is. And what you've said there is some great stuff. But when you're going out of thought, and what you're saying there and is going into the heart space, and and listening to that inner voice. Now, I will say this: whenever you listen to your inner voice, it never lets you down. It always knows best, right? So, my question to you: where and what is that inner voice?
Yes, so that inner voice, well, this was what the Tao taught me. That inner voice is our voice from our heart. And this is the voice that I utilize. That I've appointed that voice as my teacher.
Mm-hmm.
This is like, I don't know if you've ever heard the Buddha saying, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. There is a Buddhist saying.
I've heard that.
And what the Buddha means by that, because every human being is a Buddha, every one of us. That means that that voice inside of ourselves is our teacher. And so if we're ready to listen to something that you speak of that's deep inside of ourselves, because we always know the answer ourselves, whether we're right or wrong. That's our consciousness, as you speak of. And so our teacher is not someone outside of ourselves. Our teacher is inside of ourselves, deep inside of ourselves, and that's our teacher.
But what is that? What is okay? So I would say that teacher, that voice, is beyond the heart. It's something undescribable, so as we are human beings using English and using words, we try to describe it, right? But I would say that it's our part of us, or it's us, it's the true nature of who we really are. The voice within, the voice that always knows best, the voice that you followed to get back to happiness, to get off the meds, to go and follow your heart and and live the life that you're living now. For us to have this conversation, and the many conversations you've had with many people about this subject, you would have had to have followed that heart. But that heart is maybe eternal, lives beyond the death of the body, lived beyond the body before, came from somewhere, goes back to somewhere, and has always been. I know you would disagree and say, well, I can't go there because that's naming something, and this is naming. And I'm just saying that perhaps there's a truth here, that actually you're connecting with the true essence of who you are, that's always been and always will be, and it survives death.
Yes, that's the essence self. So you see, my whole life I thought that I was a discrete self. So the voice from our heart is the actual self, that is the existential self, that is, we're woven into the existence. So when we listen to that voice, it's kind of like the intelligence of existence that comes through us, because there's no separation between who we are and the existence itself. Our minds made that, because when we grew up as babies, we were taught, we were given a name, we were given belief systems, we learned things in school, and then we created a mental identity. But when we give up that mental identity of who we are, then the intelligence, we could allow it to come through us, and then that intelligence becomes our teacher, that we know ourselves to be existence.
Hi guys, my name's Kevin Moore, and I'm the host of The Moore Show. Now, it's my purpose, my passion, my mission to help you guys become your greatest version. Now, you might be looking to find answers on love, connecting with your life's purpose, reuniting with a loved one on the other side, discovering your past lives, or just helping you make sense in finding your direction. Now, as a multi-dimensional channel, I can connect with higher aspects of yourself to help you in this present moment to become your best version and live your most empowered life. Now, you can book myself for a reading by going to tmspsychics.com/Kevin, or you can get a reading from one of my many gifted team of readers. The Moore Show Psychics, helping you transform your present moment to the most loving and happiest it can be. Now, I also offer a full money back guarantee, so what have you got to lose? Empower your life today.
The More Show connects personal development metaphysics and consciousness tools for transformation, empowerment, and awakening. Please support this independent show so Kevin can continue to bring you the most inspiring and alternative interviews and videos. Go to www.themoreshow.com/donate. You can also support The More Show through Patreon by going to www.patreon.com/themoreshow. Or you can make a quick and easy donation from PayPal using PayPal at themoreshow.com.
Okay, well, I'm going to call that you're talking to your soul. When you listen to your inner voice, you're talking to the soul that's always been, always will be, and it's the true nature of who you are. I know you wouldn't agree with that, and that's okay. And I appreciate your truth that you're pumping on this show as well. I would say you're right. I would say I'm right, in one sense. And it really doesn't matter as well. What matters is, well, no, does it matter? Well, for me, it would matter because that would be my way of justifying it. But, you know, for someone that's suffering right now listening to this, you've got to go past logic for one thing. Your work goes past logic. What I'm saying goes past logic. Logic's not going to find any happiness there. That's not going to be the way forward. You've got to be willing to give something a go. But you probably would find that a lot of depressed people are addicted to their depression. They're addicted to it. They love it. They love it so much they don't want to give it up. Because to give it up is to be self-empowered, to take responsibility yourself.
There's a lot of truth in what you say, is that the thing about depression or any other thing is that deep down what we want as human beings is love and acceptance. Every human being, no matter what it is, that's what they want. So if they're not finding it inside of themselves, there's very subconscious things at play. So if we play the sick role, for example, some people play the sick role so that they get attention from others so that they can get love. And that's love from the outside. But the problem is then when the people leave them, they can't be alone because they're dependent on the love outside of themselves to go on, and they play the depressed role. They need that depression. And that's the sickness of it all. So, you know, the inward journey for me, a lot of it was to find inner love, you know, to find the love inside of myself. And now, you know, I have love in myself. I didn't have that before. My whole life, I didn't have any love inside of myself. So now the outside world just complements myself, rather than before I was dependent on love and admiration from outside because I was empty inside. So it's filling myself up with love is kind of what it was. And so now of course, it's nice to be with other people, and I love human beings, but now I found love inside of myself as well, which I didn't have before. When I was quote unquote bipolar, It was self-hatred. Now it's self-love.
How did you find that love?
That love was actually the voice within gave me that love. The voice within gave me the love and acceptance that I could not get from outside in the world. And I trusted that voice, and that voice guided me. And you call that voice the soul, and that's fine. There's other words for it, but that inner voice is always my teacher. Mm-hmm. It's everything to me. That's
how did you?
Yeah, go ahead.
How did you trust it? How did you trust it? And how did you learn to listen that it was actually the voice that was there to serve you and that wanted the best for you?
It's a very good question. It took me 8 months or 10 months to trust the voice. I kept questioning the voice because I handed my life over to the voice in order to be my teacher. So I questioned the voice over and over and over again. Are you love? Are you acceptance? Are you, all the things that I wanted to be as a human being, I kept asking it and questioning it, because there were so many tricks around. What is this the right voice? Am I going to put my hands in something I can't see, which I did, and that was the faith within myself to then know that this was the voice of love and virtue and everything that I always wanted to be. And that's when I appointed that voice to be my teacher, and that was the voice I followed. But like you said, the faith required to go that deep and then to find the voice and then to allow the voice to actually teach me, that was the journey inward.
What was you asking the voice? I mean, what? Okay, so I mean, you know, getting out of the state that you was in, which is not a, you know, it's bloody difficult that where you was at. What were the kind of first few guiding things? I mean, obviously there was an A to B to C situation here with the voice, and it's, you know, you'd always listen to that voice. Now, are you saying that when, you know, anything you do in life, well, not anything, but some of the bigger decisions, you've gone with that voice, which some people may call the gut feeling?
Well, that voice, you know, it's just truly who I am. It's my essence self. So a gut feeling, this one's the heart feeling, so to say.
Right.
But the voice is true. Like, I know if I'm doing something that's not quote unquote who I am, that means I'm not listening to my voice. Now, I listen to my voice, I think, about 99% of the time now, because even before this was so important before I even I made sure that this voice, because it felt like I was controlled, so to say, allowing a voice within myself to become my teacher. I thought actually that I was now a slave to something inside of myself, and I was scared for months that I was now enslaved by some voice that I can't see. So part of the questioning, it's like a fairy tale, pretty much, this inward journey.
Well,
I know, even speaking about it, it might be hard to believe, but
no, it's a beautiful story, and I've been a bit harder than I would have been normally, because I just want to crack the whip out a bit here, because I've suffered from depression. I've got someone in the family that suffers from depression. I mean, I'm fine now because I'm actually in a really good place, I'll be honest with you, you know, without having to put anything on. I really am, you know, I'm much more empowered than I ever was. Maybe I've done the same path as you in a different way and with different terminology. But yes, I do have depression in the family. It's bloody difficult, right? To support people. You do support them. That's all you can do, right? But you don't want to see people in this situation. So that's the space I'm coming from. But my ex-partner, my ex-girlfriend, she always trusted her voice, and you know what? It just led her to success after success after success. Never let her down. Never was the wrong move or the wrong decision. Always felt her decisions, always went with the heartfelt decision. And she was an inspiration in a lot of ways. Sometimes we don't want to go down the heart route, because sometimes the voice can, the true heartfeltness of making a decision. So when you've made a decision, and how does it feel? It may be, do I really want to be with this person? I've got this family. Do I really want it? I've got this life. Is this really what I wanted to do? And it's people get stopped as soon as they listen to the voice when it tells them the truth, because they're stopped by the fear of the unknown. Fear stops them then.
Yeah. So when you speak of your ex-girlfriend being successful, so I mean, she might have thoughts, and then she becomes successful in the superficial, or the world that we see outside of ourselves. I mean, she might be successful as a piano player. I don't know what she does. Successful in quote unquote life. That's surface life.
Of course it is.
But then beneath the surface of life, and plus we can't know if that's really true. That could be a persona, so to say.
Yeah, is that true happiness? Yep, absolutely, yep.
owning the person themselves, because that's what I'm saying. A lot of times we see someone, they look happy on the outside, the next day they take their lives, because we can't really know what's inside of someone's. A lot of it could be an act to show that I'm fine. They have to put up almost a front because they're not allowed to show that they're upset, and that can be taught to them as children, that it's not okay for them to show weakness, and that's a very subconscious thing. So they appear to be happy even though inside they don't want to put a smile on because they don't feel good inside. But yet there's a conflict that says, look, you're strong, you got to smile no matter what. So these things that you're talking about is success on the on the modern day outside life. But only the person themselves can really know if they're successful on the inside, the part that no one else can see. And so when a person goes to sleep at night, in the end, the person knows whether they're honest to themselves or not. They could be putting on an act for the outside world, but only we know how true we are to ourselves, and that's how true we are to that inner voice that you're talking about.
That's so true. Yeah. No, it's so true what you say. It really is. Yeah. I mean, I was just using that as an example, just that, when you do, or even on the outside, things can work. But it is so true.
Some people, even when they're suffering, will put on even a stronger persona. Let's say they're really hurt, but they'll smile to even, because I've done this in the past before this all happened. I put on a front to kind of be like, you know what, you did that to me, but it didn't bother me. Now, it did. But my external thing was to show it didn't, meaning I'm going to put on a big, brave smile, but inside there was a world of hurt. And so it's kind of, look, you didn't hurt me, but inside that wasn't true. I was hurt, but I put on a persona or a front to show how strong I was to the world, so to say. But you see, that's like creating a lot of conflict within myself when I was doing that.
Yeah.
And but only I could have known that, because maybe someone that saw me from the outside, they'd say, oh, look, Jeff is doing so well. He broke up, and yet look, he's active, he's happy. Look at him. He's skiing away like not a care in the world. Now that might be what I'm appearing like to the outside person, but only I would know that that was all, putting on a persona or a front.
Absolutely, and that's so such a good point you make. So just so I've got your I'm on trying to be on the same wavelength with you as a way forward. So when I make a decision to do something, and I'm not just talking about the mundane things, I'm talking about moving here, or wanting to give this a go, or whatever it may be that you're choosing to want to do to better yourself. Would you always say just go with also how does it feel?
You're saying like performing an action that you feel is true to yourself?
Look, if I'm going to move, like when I moved to Holland, when I moved to Amsterdam, I went with how do I feel about this as well? Does it feel right? And it did. Mm-hmm. I was fearful by being on my own, going with no partner, going with not for work, for work, but not working with a group that I was going to be working with, doing it by myself. Yeah, there was a shitload of fear there, but the feeling of moving there was better than not doing it. So I went with my feelings. Is that kind of what you're saying? I hope it is, because I'm trying to, get your message out here of what you're trying to say.
Well, once again, you're searching for happiness, right? I mean, it sounds like you moved to Amsterdam, right? And something about it was that by taking off and going here, that you're gonna find is happiness your goal, so to say? And is that a goal of people? Is the goal to be happy? Is it to find?
Well, I wasn't finding happiness where I was. within,
Okay.
and I knew I couldn't go somewhere else and find it there. But when I asked myself the question of moving away with more options being over there, then that felt right. It really did. Fearful, but right. And yeah, you know.
But the question is can we find that inside of ourselves without
Moving or doing
going
anything.
anywhere? That's kind of what I'm going to be teaching people, is what we can find inside of ourselves. Of course, what you're saying has relevance because, you know, me personally, I love skiing. So would I be quote unquote happier living in the mountains and skiing every day? Yes. But that's on the surface. You know, what I was talking about before is finding something inside of myself,
Yeah.
finding love inside of myself. It doesn't matter whether I'm skiing or whether I'm sitting at home. I have love within myself. So it's irrespective of where my physical location is. So there's truth in what you're saying, because there's definitely, if you're moved to some place where you feel that it's more in tune with the activities that you enjoy doing and the culture that you might like.
Well, I
You know,
don't know
there's a
about
lot of
that.
truth
Yeah,
to
I tell you
that.
what it did do for me by going past my fear, moving somewhere else, and going, and in that moment of making that decision of, does this feel right? Yes, it does. We'll go do it. So much more has come from that. You know, being able to be independent and not needing to be with anyone. You know, Christ, so much has come up. Knowing that that I'm strong enough to make big decisions like that by myself, and that learning to love myself more by doing that, by living that whole process day in and day out by myself. Really just finding myself in ways that I couldn't find in any other moment. So I guess this just goes back again. I'm not saying I made the perfect decision, and I do like what you say about, happiness is now, wherever you are. But we don't always find the happiness now where we are, because it's about accepting that our life the way it is right now. That's not saying you can't change it, but accepting what we have right now. Isn't that a great place?
No, you're right about that. It's not about happiness. It's about what you just said. Because I don't, to be happy all the time is actually torture, and that's mania. Um,
Yeah, you
when
can't be
I was
happy
in
all
a
the time.
state of mania,
Yeah.
no matter, like, let's say I was at a funeral, to be ecstatic when my body should be wanting to actually feel and cry or what have you. So it's, the goal is what you said. It's not to be happy. It's just to be present and kind of allow whatever comes to the moment to express itself. So whether that means to be sad or to cry, that happens at the appropriate time. You know, the worst thing about mania and why happiness is a curse, prolonged happiness is actually the worst thing. And that's why I say happiness is a concept of the mind, is that just imagine walking around all day ecstatic, no matter what the circumstance. It's actually it's a living torture,
Yeah.
and I lived like that when I was in the quote unquote
Yeah.
states of
Yeah.
mania. And some people enjoy their manic states
They do. They
because they're more productive, or some, or and they, but it is just that it's not a natural state.
No, listen, look. As far as I'm concerned, life's like a hill. It's up, it's down, it's up, it's down, it's up, it's down, it's up, it's down. It's never. I've never found any balance in my life where it's just perfect all the time, or it's just happy all the time. How do I feel right now? I wish I definitely, would like. I was thinking to myself today. I want next year to generate more wealth. I want to follow my heart more. And trust it in things I'm going to do. So I'm going to be moving to the States at some point, end of next year. Well, not moving, but at least going there for 90 days at a time, and trying to find a life over there. That will, I'm happy right now, but I know the things that I need, I want to do as well, that I would love to do. So, I don't know. I mean, I think so.
No,
I don't know. I mean, to say. I mean, yeah, happiness. Yeah, it's a difficult one, isn't it? Because
but you see,
are you happy? Are you happy all the
the
time? Are you happy all the time throughout the day?
No, what
No.
I am is I'm present.
Does that
That's all.
generate your happiness by being present?
It just allows me to experience what life is at the moment.
Right.
So if I'm eating a slice of pizza, I could be engaged with that activity, and my mind's not off thinking about what happened yesterday or what's going to happen tomorrow. I'm actually experiencing the pizza.
Well, that's really
So
powerful.
I could be happy, or if I'm in a movie and this happened, I'm in the moment with the movie and something happens and I start crying. I feel like, oh my God, this that's, and then I can start, feeling, or tears could start coming out of my eyes. It's just being engaged in the experience, is what it is.
Okay, well, there's some. Okay, well, then I find depression in myself. If I'm true to my audience, my depression is caused now and then. It's caused by wanting to have that life to share with someone. That's my cause of my depression sometimes. Where, I just wish I had it now. I would enjoy it so much, and then I say to myself, "No, hang on a minute. What are you on about? You should be happy with yourself in this very moment right now, because how are you going to be with anyone else? Why would anyone else want to come into your space if they were the ones to make you happy, if you weren't happy already? If you're happy already, then they're coming into a happy space. So so I see life now teaching me lessons that maybe I set myself these lessons before I came into this life, into this existence, to find to me what love is all about, loving myself in this very moment, and loving to be okay to not be with anyone. Yeah. Or maybe I just missed the sex. Maybe I just missed the sex a lot. Maybe that's what it is as well, and that became an addiction in my life a little bit, in some sense, rather than than all the other things. Oh God, I'm admitting a lot here right now, but it's all good.
No, that's perfectly normal what you're speaking of, and that's the mind's desires, and that's why desire. A lot of people might, we might think things will be better if we only get this, or things will be better if we only get that. So these thoughts come through our mind all the time. If I married a model and I'm a billionaire, then life will be great. Might be a thought that comes to mind. If only this will happen, if only I can work and achieve this state, I will be happy. But those are thoughts, and we find time and time again when people get what they want, quote unquote, that doesn't give them their happiness. The only one that can give them their happiness, is themselves, because they'll find it within themselves. If we look at George Michael, for example, was he happy? If you look at Prince, was he happy?
No.
Sure, they had the admiration of the world and they had all the money to burn, but were they happy? No. David Bowie.
No.
So did they find something outside of what the world wanted them to be, outside of the love and admiration that they gained from the outside? Were they happy inside of themselves? And that would be the question that only they would know the answer to. And this is kind of what I would like to teach people, is to find something that we all have inside of ourselves, that it can't be given to us. No amount of money, no amount of fame, no girls in the world can give it to us. We have to give this to ourselves. And then, of course, when things happen to us on the outside world, that's great. That complements it. But our ability to give ourselves this gift comes within ourselves. And that's kind of what I'd like to teach people.
Absolutely, and I guess as well that what would your thoughts be on if I said to you, well, what about if you put yourself to one side for a minute and said, well, what about if actually being of service was actually, if you were to be of service for someone else and put yourself out the picture for a moment, would that be what you're looking for in life?
Well, yes, at this point, what I'd like to do is help other people, because that's really where I am in my life. I found this inside of myself, and now I'd like to share with other people, share everything I know, share the concepts and the practices that I utilize to do this. And that's kind of where I'm at in my life, just to share this knowledge with people and help them along their way, knowing in the end that I can only bring them to the water, but they'll have to drink if they want to start to enjoy what it is that I found inside of myself. Because no matter how much I can teach people, they have to make the decision, do they want to find this inside of themselves? And that's kind of the people that I guess I'm looking to reach, are the people that want to find, love inside of themselves. And it takes courage to look inside of ourselves. But what we find in there is really what we can't find in the world outside of ourselves. And this is where I'd like to help out.
Well, this has been a different type of interview for me. I'm not normally that challenging, and I'm not normally I don't know. It's just different. It was good. It felt good. I just really wanted to understand what it is that you're about, and well, yeah. I mean, other people watching this may have understood straight away, but I mean, I would like to understand as well. Actually, I find it very helpful. I do understand what you're talking about. I do. Present moment is so important, what you've just said there, and all the rest of it, and love, and going with the heart space and the voice within. So important. And I think people like Carrie Fisher, like Carrie Fisher, for example, I'm not, she did do a lot of drugs in the early days to quiet that voice. George Michael doing a lot of drugs to quiet those voices. Many other stars doing a lot of drugs to quiet that noise, because and obviously the side effect of that is obviously it destroys the bloody body very much, very quickly, doesn't it? It decays the organs and everything else. But this is this. Some of these people. Well, Carrie did. She suffered from bipolar. But you can see why they take the drugs, can't you, as well, just to the escape of it. I really hope that anyone that's maybe suffering from depression or bipolar or both, this interview helps a little bit to say you are the answer you were looking for. And I really do hope that Jeffrey's work, you can see the benefits of what we've been talking about, that there is a way forward, and if Jeffrey can do it, anyone can as well. That's a great example of your work.
Yes, we're all our greatest teachers. I'd like to just say to the audience, me personally, before I was able to do this, subconsciously I was afraid to feel things that, let's say, we bring up girlfriends, like my heart was broken when I was in college, and I didn't want to feel that again. So some part of my journey inward was to allow myself to bring my mind's attention to the heartache and allow myself to feel. Because when we don't allow ourselves to feel, then of course we can go around and have a lot of meaningless relationships, so to say, because then we kind of block off our ability to feel. So a lot of the healing that we can do inside of ourselves is to stop being afraid of going to feel inside. Where are these places inside of ourselves that we're so afraid of? What would happen if we do get heartbroken and we can sit there and feel that heartache or heartbreak? It never kills us, and that's where the healing takes place, actually, by going to places within ourselves, allowing ourselves to go there. It's not like a fun thing to do, but that's where the healing takes place. Otherwise, we just end up reaching for alcohol or drugs or anything just to take us away from going and discovering these other places we might not want to go, so to say.
Yeah, so true, so true. And I might just put something in there as well, is, just go past the fear as well. Go past the fear. And when you go past the fear, that's when the magic happens. That's when new doors are opened up for you, and new people come into your life, and all sorts of wonderful things happen. But, fear is false evidence appearing real. That's all it is to myself. So I don't know what you think of that, whether you would agree with that or not, but that's just my take on it.
Well, just being present with what is, because to be fearful is that's what it is. It's a thought process, is what fear is. So to recognize that whatever voices we might hear that says we can't do something, that's why we're not our thoughts. We could either decide to listen to that voice and say, oh, the voice says we can't do it, and listen and not do it. Or we can just say, well, that was just a thought. I'm still going to do it. So that's the paralysis of fear, would be to buy into the thought that you can't do something, because that's not who we are. Those are just thoughts. So there is a way to just let thoughts go by us like clouds in the sky without having every thought consume us. And that's kind of like the art of the whole thing, because thought evolved to help us as people, and yet we look around the world and we see millions of people suffering and taking medications. Clearly that cannot be what thought evolved for us to become, not to kill each other in war or to have collective belief systems that have separated humanity. Thought should be used for greater purposes, and that's kind of like what I've discovered inside of myself, is my thoughts are now useful. They don't create suffering, and I'm hoping that people can get to that point in and of themselves, because we're seeing this epidemic where the world is quote unquote mentally ill and is under medication because their thoughts are causing immense suffering.
And also the medication that people take as well can be highly addictive, and it's very difficult to get off because of that addiction. It gives them an unnatural high. It sort of mellows them out to, not have to think, or maybe not even having to question. And I don't know, really. I don't know. It just the people I see on medication for this stuff, they're just zombies in one sense.
I called it my chemical lobotomy, because in the old days when the mind was causing people so much suffering, that's what they used to do, is they physically lobotomized people. They'd remove the part of the brain that was causing the suffering in the frontal lobe. And so the medications kind of work in a similar, luckily for me, chemicals are reversible, so I didn't, in the old days, if I had seen a doctor and told them 50 years ago, if this had happened to me and I went to a doctor or they found me, they would have lobotomized me. This is, I guess, the fortune of it all.
Yeah.
For myself.
Yeah.
But clearly it just goes to show that we're just not our thoughts, because even scientifically, we could lobotomize someone and yet the person still goes on. So clearly we can't be who we think we are, but rather we're just beings that happen to have the ability to think.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, look, I know we've gone way over time here. We said 51 minutes, and it's gone way over that. And I really, really appreciate you giving us this extra time and sort of debating with me. We've been putting your website on the screen, but just for those who may be listening to this on a podcast, your website is?
It's www.jeffreyfidelmd.com. That's JEFFREYFIDELMD.com.
And obviously, ways to contact you and some of the, I believe, is it retreats that you do? I've got the right word there, or the, I forgot.
At this point, on the website are videos and different blogs, which are teachings. But I'm going out on the circuit, so to say. No official retreats quite yet, but that's going to be in the works for me. Right now, I'm locally speaking.
Excellent. Okay, and internationally to the talk shows as well. Most definitely. Okay, and again, the book, I believe it's called is available from Amazon and Barnes and Noble and all good bookstores throughout. Well, it's been interesting, very interesting. And I would just like to say, Jeffrey Fidel, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Kevin Moore. It's been a pleasure speaking to you.
Well, we've come to an end on tonight's show. Don't forget that you can listen and watch all our past interviews on the More Show's official YouTube channel. Remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel for new daily shows. You may also find out more on our past and upcoming guests on themoreshow.com, and do like us on Facebook and Twitter for the latest updates. So until next time, be safe.